Did you know that America's second Civil War happened back in 2005 and the island of Manhattan was a demilitarized zone? I'm talking about DMZ by Brian Wood, published by Vertigo Comics. I absolutely love this story. I can't wait to show you this series. Hit that subscribe button, grab a cup of coffee, and let's check out this story. All right. Here is DMZ book 1 out of 5. Again, written by Brian Wood. Most of the art is done by Riccardo Burcelli. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And it was done by Vertigo Comics. The thing about Brian Wood is not only is he a writer, he's also a designer. So all of the covers in this book are designed digitally by Brian Wood. We'll show off some of those. It's kind of like this matte paper. It's really cool. You can kind of see here the island of Manhattan, and there's more maps on the inside, and I love a good story with maps. Deluxe Edition, Book 1. There's a lot of really good bonus content in here, too. So we start off, we're in the middle of this American Civil War, and the story is really about the island of Manhattan, which has been a demilitarized zone. On the west side and, kind of throughout the mainland of the United States is what's called the Free States. And on the other side, Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, and a lot of the East Coast is where we'll say, former United States Army exists. And the battle for Manhattan has been going on for, at this point, 2, 3, maybe 4 years. One of the things I really like about this is, although it's political, this is something that anyone could get into. The Free States is not necessarily a conservative movement, and the United States isn't necessarily a liberal movement. In fact, throughout the book, it kind of goes both ways. The story follows Maddie Roth, who is an intern at Liberty News. Liberty News is a media, kind of almost a state-run media outlet for the United States of America. And his first job as in his internship is to enter the DMZ zone, the island of Manhattan, with a news reporter, and they're going to cover what it's like to live there. Well, before they land, something goes horrifically wrong. Their helicopter is shot down, and Maddie Roth is stuck. He decides to carry out his initial job of telling stories. He meets a lot of characters along the way. Again, more maps throughout this book. A lot of digital design work done by Brian Wood to really enhance the experience. He meets this character here, whose name is escaping me right now, but we will see it here shortly. And she has a pretty big impact on Maddie Roth. In fact, they may or may not have some relations later in the story, but she's kind of the heart and soul of the DMZ, or the island of Manhattan. And she takes him around and shows him what it's like and how people are surviving. Maddie Roth is sent some equipment from Liberty Media. They really like the idea of him staying there and reporting from the ground. So he gets a laptop, cell phone, and press passes. But he is, again, this is a war zone, right? Some pretty gruesome stuff is going on, and it's not a great place to be. Throughout the story, Maddie meets a lot of interesting people. At one point, I believe these people are in charge of the Central Park, and they have taken Central Park and turned it into a vegetable produce facility where they're surviving on their own. Again, the island of Manhattan is not a friendly place, and he meets a lot of bad people as well. The first story is called Body of a Journalist, and it's 6 issues long, and it's really his introduction to living in the DMZ. We do have run-ins with the leader of the Free States Army. Maddie's abducted at one point, and his relationship with the United States and Liberty Media often gets him out of trouble. His dad works for Liberty Media and is pulling some strings. At one point, they try to pull him out because it's not a safe place to be, but he decides he wants to stay. This story takes place in a post 9/11 world, and the war in the story happens shortly after that. So kind of put yourself in that mind frame, right? Of what was America feeling like post 9/11. He meets a Canadian news reporter who comes down, and they share some best practices and some evenings, we'll say. Maddie's life is always in danger here. It's not, like I said, it's not, it's a war zone essentially, right? So really awesome artwork done by Riccardo Bercelli. The one thing that I found really interesting is Riccardo Bercelli, right here, made a name for himself in comics in 2003, working on some. He has not had a significant run on any comic other than this. I think he does a lot of art outside of the comic world. This was his longest tenured run on anything before or since then, which is surprising because his art is phenomenal. You can see the DMZ being attacked. This happens all the time, whether it's from the Free State Army or from the United States Army. Her name is Z, and I probably put that on camera a little bit ago. And Z is also a nurse. And at the beginning of this, and there's a lot of flashbacks, and at the beginning, they tried to evacuate as many people as they could from Manhattan, but as you know, and can probably assume, the rich got out, the poor stayed. Statue of Liberty, really awesome. If you're from New York, or if you've been to New York, or if you just really like New York, the imagery is fantastic. And then at the end of book 1, a lot of extras, a lot of details. There's really good interviews with Brian Wood about what he was thinking at that time, and that takes place at the end of every book. So I'm going to show you book 2.
Hey, Omnibuds! Be sure to check out the Omnibuds Cafe and merchandise store where you can buy mugs, t-shirts, stickers. We're using earnings to buy equipment for YouTube and to fund more giveaways. Who doesn't like giveaways? So click the link in the description and start shopping.
Welcome back. Here's a deluxe edition book 2 of DMZ, and again, Riccardo Bercelli doing most of the art throughout this. There are some guest artists at times, but let's dig into this. So the start of book 2, and I don't want to give away too much because I really want people to read this and experience it for themselves. The United States is working with the United Nations for additional security inside the DMZ. However, the United Nations is not met kindly by the inhabitants of Manhattan. The United Nations are also protecting this company called, I forget the name of the company. It's a military construction company that has been assigned to rebuild Manhattan. And again, they're not met with open arms from the DMZ population because they've got other ideas as well. Uh-oh, we're showing some boobies. So Maddie Roth goes on the undercover with this company. I forget the name of it. I'll put it up on screen. But to understand what they're really about and what they're after. But of course, the more destruction that happens in the DMZ, the more this company, they're called Trustwell, the more this company will make. So you get a little bit more of that politics aspect of what's going on in the DMZ. Again, Matty Roth making stupid bonehead decisions. He's a young guy, but always finding himself in trouble. And usually in bed with a beautiful young woman somehow. Damn you, Maddie. But again, we continue with just fantastic art. You get a little bit more backstory on the war, and you get a little bit more insight into what the United States is thinking about all of this. And this relationship didn't end well for Maddie Roth. So yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot in this book that really shines. It's the politics, the double crossings, the people that Maddie meets. At some point, the DMZ decides they want to elect their own mayor or governor and run things themselves because neither the Free State Army nor the United States Army has had any success in taking over the island of Manhattan. Friendly Fire, a really dark story about, I believe it was a protest or something, and United States Army opened fire on innocent civilians. And although this story is dark, this whole book is really dark and grim. Again, it's a war zone. It's not a friendly place. Um, so it's actually kind of unsettling, right? There's not a lot of uh, happy moments, I'll say, in this book. But just look at this art by Riccardo Bercelli, just absolutely fantastic. Blows my mind that he hasn't gotten work uh, with DC or Marvel. Here we get a guest artist. I forget who that is. This gentleman, whose name I can't remember either because I have a terrible no, his name's Wilson. I just saw it. Wilson runs what's left of Chinatown, and Wilson is super connected. He's got a lot of guys working for him, and Chinatown, for the Chinatown inhabitants, is a very safe place to be in the DMZ. Maddie makes friends with them. They make deals, and that's a really good relationship for him. More background on the war. I forget which book it was, but at some point, the island of Manhattan, the DMZ, obtains maybe or maybe not a nuclear warhead. And that really changes the conversation between them, the Free State Army, and the United States Army. The other thing that's really cool in this book, so this story here, we get a lot of short kind of cutaways from the main story, and it'll highlight someone else in the DMZ. This gentleman here is an artist who does graffiti work, and it kind of shows his experience from the start of the war through the end of it. Some more gruesome stuff here. Again, Liberty Media is using the relationship they have with Maddie Roth, kind of against him. Here's another breakaway story about Wilson and what happened to him before the war, what happened to him during the war, and how did he get to his position of power. That's a awesome spread right there. But yeah, I'm only gonna stick on. I'm only gonna show books 1 and 2 because I don't want to give away a lot of this story. I really want people to experience it for themselves. But you kind of get a good picture of what this thing's about and what the art looks like. And that's the end of book 2. And again, we got kind of the same extra, not the same, but same kind of extras. Interviews with Brian Wood about his thought process and what he was thinking about characters or certain arcs during this. We get a lot of extra artwork by Riccardo Bercelli and others who did other covers. But as far as extras go, this is one of my favorite chunk of extras in any book. It's really good stuff. That's book 2. All right. Let me know down in the comments if you've read DMZ and what your thoughts were. For me, this is one of my favorite series of all times. The story's awesome. The art is fantastic. It's another home run for Vertigo. Um, like I said, it's kind of a coming of age story for Matty Roth. He doesn't always make the right decision. In fact, he usually makes the wrong decision, but he always tries to make up for it, and he grows throughout this book. This story has everything that I hoped for. It's got war, politics, love, sex, suspense, double crossings, nuclear warheads. I absolutely love this. If you haven't read this, I highly recommend it. There were trade paperbacks. The books I have are the oversized deluxe edition. And then I believe there was one or two compendiums that came out a couple years ago. Probably not easy to find, but they're always for sale in the cafe, so check it out. Do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button if you liked this video, and we'll see you on the next review. Thanks. Check out panelboundcomics.com for all of your comic needs and pre-orders. They have a fantastic reward system and free shipping over $30. Plus, use code OMNIBUDS for life for $2 off your order. Or if you're ordering 4 or more books at once, use code OMNIBUDS for life, ship it together to save 5%. If you're in the EU, check out comicsbugle.com for your pre-ordering and comic book ordering needs. They have a fantastic reward system and free shipping to the entire EU. First-time customers can use code OMNIBUDS for life for €5 off their order.